Hey, everybody. Today I am just completely geeked out about introducing you to my friend, my colleague, Octavia Brooks. This is a conversation that I think a lot of you are going to find really thought provoking. Octavia works with folks just like our community, just like the community that you're familiar with. But she brings an angle that I just find utterly fascinating. She is a shamanic healer and a success mentor. She combines the shamanic healing modality, which is some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not, but she's going to teach us about that. And she combines that, which comes from indigenous tribes. She combines it with mentoring on mindset and brings in the tools of success psychology. She says that they are a natural complement, but that a lot of people don't see them as that. So in talking to her, I have just discovered that I now get it. I completely get it. I'm so glad she's here. I think this is going to be great fun. Hello, friend. Thanks for coming.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Margaret. I cherish our friendship and I really enjoy talking with you and your
It's
community.
Thank you. No, they're the loves of my life, as you know. I wanted to ask you a little bit, just to ground people in your background a little bit. I'd like to first, before that, just talk about who comes to you for help. Who are the people? Who are your people? Tell me a little bit about them and why you love working with them.
Thank you. I I love to work with people who feel like they're hitting an inner glass ceiling, some type of internal, emotional, or mental block. Usually they're trying to do something new or taking a big step in their business, either opening up a new revenue line or maybe getting a little bit bigger, trying to get a bigger project done, make more money. Any of these types of situations will commonly, frequently bring up some form of emotional resistance or difficulty, whether we're processing a past loss or rejection or failure, or we don't even know why, we have this unknown fear. And I work with people like that to reclaim their energy from these mental and emotional blocks so that they can just glide through these former challenges. Just they can step into their flow and stay in their flow and feel the peacefulness and the inner strength and the confidence they need to just basically blow through any type of glass ceiling and be able to overcome any challenge and do whatever they need to do to get their gifts out in the world. Because just like you, Margaret, I love supporting entrepreneurs and getting their gifts out in the world. It's my passion. I want to make the world a better place, and that's what works for me to do it.
It's beautiful. It's one thing that really drew me to you and this work. I was what I used to call shamanic curious about these things. I felt as though I wasn't certain how it applied to me, but I have seen in our work together and in our work in our masterminding together as well. I have seen you bring this into the realm of the entrepreneur, especially to the kinds of sensitive entrepreneurs that I largely work with, and in just beautiful ways. So before I forget to circle back to this, how briefly did you end up doing this work? How did you discover this passion?
So I've been on my spiritual path for a good long while, over 20 years, and I started out with the pagan community.
Mm.
And the pagan community, that's the earth worshipers, the goddess worshipers. And in that tradition, a lot of people are aware of these shamanic practices, shamanic journeys, and this idea of ceremony ceremony as a transformative process is very common in those communities. So those are my roots. That's where I started. And as I developed, I also entered into the Santo Daime, which is a Brazilian tradition. It's a spirit mediumship tradition with ayahuasca. And with that tradition, you learn a broader toolkit of working with the spirit guides that assist in this path of healing.
Mm.
So in and that's this is these are strange topics for some people, and for people that are closer and respect indigenous tribes, this is a very typical tribal worldview, that any type of imbalance, like what we've been talking about, is actually a form of spiritual imbalance, a form of energy imbalance.
Mm.
And we work with the guides to reclaim your energy, to organize and sort out your energy, to get your energy back from maybe childhood issues or, difficult moments of your life that really imprinted deeply into your psychology. And you get your energy back from those places so that you feel more free and more confident and more capable. I call it treasure hunting because it's almost like going into the deep, dark depths of your soul, of your psychology, and uncovering the gemstones of your capability that have been in there, that are just buried and covered up a little bit. We just need to clear them off.
Polish them up. So many of my people have such a rich background. It's such a rich collection of gemstones. And I feel like you've just sort of crawled inside the heads of at least half of the people watching this video in terms of that energy imbalance and in terms of not having enough of oomph, enough of X, or not feeling as though we're enough of X to really get where we want with our work. So it's just beautiful to hear you talk about this different way of approaching it. So one thing that really hooks me about the work that you're doing currently is when you talk about your internal glass ceiling, your self-imposed glass ceiling. There's the writer Paul Jarvis, who wrote the book called Company of One. He talks about the fact that we give up when we leave the corporate world or the job world and we do our own work. We often trade in the boss that we had for asking permission, or if we leave the glass ceiling, we build our own glass ceiling over us. How does that, what does that look like for you? Explain what you mean by hitting that internal glass ceiling. And what is it, if I were doing that right now, what would that look like in me?
Yeah, okay. Well, Margaret, I think you've blown through a lot of your glass ceilings already. But I think typically it's when you go to do something and like maybe for a minute you have a lot of motivation and ideas and inspiration, and then when you sit down to actually do it, everything just drains away.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like staring at a blank piece of paper going, where did my creative muse go? Where did that inspiration and motivation go? I just feel like I need to take a nap right now.
Mm-hmm.
You just experienced an energy dropout.
Mm.
And these internal glass ceilings can often be made from, well, I'm going to go deep. Do you mind? Can I go deep for a second?
You can go. We are deep people out here, Octavia.
So my concept of the entrepreneurial journey is in large part a journey of intimacy with ourselves. We've heard a lot of people say that all the business coaches, you are your business. And then sometimes we even vilify ourselves saying, if I'm my business, then why does my business suck so bad and I'm not making money and I don't have clients, So it's a lifestyle choice and a self-development path. And so in that regard, it's a form of self-love and it's a form of intimacy with ourselves. What are we able to allow ourselves to have, be, do, and experience in our lives? So if we came from a childhood where we were constantly kind of limited and smacked down and told we weren't going to amount to anything, then our oomph to say, I'm going to prove them wrong at a certain point in time, like that's going to get you down the road a little ways. And then when you go to do something kind of bigger, that initial like fighting is not going to work for you anymore. The resistance is going to persist. It's going to create more problems. And you're just going to basically get really frustrated trying to accomplish something that you want to accomplish, that you know is good for you. And this could be with any one of our entrepreneurial hats. We have to wear, like 20, how many is it, Margaret?
At least.
20 or 30 different
hats. That's on
hats.
a Tuesday.
Yeah, right. And so thank God I love variety, right? But
right.
And then there's gonna always be a selection of those hats that we really don't want to look at. Like, I know you help people with websites and technology. Another area is numbers. People don't want to look at their numbers, their stats, their profit and loss statement. Like, they just want to stay in the soft skills. If only clients would just always fall out of the sky, everything would be great. I never had to do marketing. So it's when we go to do these parts of our business that we find a little bit more personally challenging. That's when we can experience these emotional and mental blocks. And it's so hard for us to stay in the current of our flow. And when we stay in the current of our flow, here's what it feels like. It feels like, well, I know my numbers are kind of challenging for me, but I'm going to have this spiritual and mental process that I'm going to take myself through in order to get myself in the right headspace, the right energy space, the right intention and vibration. I like to bring together energy, intention, and then vibration. The vibration of what we're putting out there in the world is what we're magnetizing back to us. That's what all the success coaches say, and you can witness it in your own life too. Energy, intention, and vibration. You can take yourself through a mental, emotional, spiritual practice before you go to do one of these challenging aspects of your business, and step yourself into your flow, into a higher vibrational state to where you're bigger than the challenge. You're much bigger than the challenge. And when you become much bigger than the challenge, more confident, more clear, with more inner strength, then you can look at your numbers and they're just numbers. They don't make you want to stab your eye out. They don't make you want to run
A
screaming.
fork.
They're just numbers. They're just information. And doing some
Wonderful.
marketing. Well, oh, it looks like I need to take a class. Okay, I'll take a class. So you just, the charge and the frustration and the impatience and the fear just begin to melt away and are replaced with a sense of, it's challenging, but I'm going to figure it out. And I know I have confidence in myself that I can figure it out. So that's what I try to create in the transformation I like to create with my clients and with my students. And I do that with the shamanic energy healing as well as the success psychology mentoring.
That's wonderful. I'm curious about that. I mean, a lot of my folks don't have a traditional concept of success, which is, I'm now making 7 figures and I can take 12 vacations a year and I own a small island in the Caribbean. For a lot of folks in my tribe here, our idea of success is doing the work we love, making a living at it, but also having fun, experiencing inspiration, experiencing opportunities for creativity, and not working 77 hours a week in order to have all of those things. So how does your work around success psychology help us, this gang, with that kind of success?
Thank you. Well, I alluded to this in the last, my last little ramble there. Like, I think it's partly to do with the flow state. Now, we can get so much into the flow state. To be honest, actually, the flow state can be a little bit addictive. So I like to make sure that people know how to get into the flow state, and then I want to make sure they're not getting addicted to the dopamine of the flow state and working 80 hours a week. However, the flow state really facilitates that sense of ease and gracefulness and joyfulness that you have towards your work, and that you feel connected to your inspiration and your creativity. In the shamanic practices, I teach people how to manage their own energy and how to talk to themselves when they're feeling stuck. And so this is the combination of the shamanic work, the energy work, and the mental success training. The reason I find them so compatible is because when we work with our energy and we use some of the shamanic techniques to reclaim our energy, then our brain and our psychology, and this is my experience. One day I'm going to have the money to create a whole scientific experiment around this and get real actual hardcore data. But it's my belief that through shamanic practices, energy healing, meditation, and these types of practices, we are literally changing the physical structure of our brain. We're opening up synaptic pathways that are more efficient and more effective in our brain. Those things that uh, create resistance are usually old belief systems, and the old belief systems create structures in the mind that create all of these emotional symptoms of hitting your internal glass ceiling, like we've been talking about. With the energy healing, there's this resiliency that begins to develop in your synaptic pathways.
Mm.
So after a healing session, you have this opportunity. Your mind is a little bit more malleable than it was. It's less structured and less locked into these constrained pathways that are so limiting.
Mm.
And once you follow that up with some practices of of how you talk to yourself, and using affirmations and processes to talk yourself into a state of confidence and internal clarity and gratitude, which is a very high vibrational frequency, you can rewire your brain from the constrained, I'm always hitting these walls of resistance, to I'm in a peaceful flow state more and more and more often. And maybe you have the peaceful flow state for a couple minutes at a time, once a day, and then gradually it becomes a few more minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a few hours a day, until gradually you're expanding that sense of peacefulness, confidence, inner strength, the ability to rise, having the toolkit to rise to any challenge becomes a more and more natural state of being,
Mm.
until you're ready to step up to the next really big challenge. And then usually all that other stuff starts washing through your brain again, and you've got like grasping for every tool in the toolkit to be able to float your boat to the next level. But
Mm.
that is in general how the energy healing works with the success psychology. They are so compatible, and they really get you into an efficiency with your business. It takes so much time to navigate all that resistance and all that emotional stuff. I mean, you just flounder around. If you didn't have that, your business would take half the time to actually do and implement. So
Mm.
you can either work the same number of hours and get twice as much done, or work half the hours and still have a viable business.
Oh, that sounds like heaven. It sounds absolutely like heaven. And with everything
That's
that
the
we're
life
trying to
I want to
say.
create, right?
Exactly. That's the one we all want here too. That sounds like the perfect situation. So the I have personally experienced the transformation that you have talked about, and how this completely changes how you approach your workday, beginning when your eyelids snap open in the morning,
Yeah.
and how your day looks, and when it ends, and how it ends, and how it feels in your body. So I've been one of your transformers. No, wait, that's a robot. I've been one of your transformed. But tell me, how do you accomplish this? If you could explain to my folks, like, what are the methods, what are the tools that you use, the services specifically that you offer that could help them experience this as well?
Well, thank you for asking. I definitely offer one-on-one sessions and mentor people, and offer those over, these practices can take a lot of practice to get good at them, to really step into them. And so I do encourage people to work with me for 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, in order to get kind of the whole toolkit that they need to always feel capable of getting to the next level. I also have classes where I do guided meditation, and that will train your energy system so that your chakras, all of your energy is always balanced and nurtured and fed. So all of those energy dropouts have something from the universe and from the earth to fill them. So you recognize an energy dropout, and you are capable of sending energy to yourself immediately to start resolving that. I also offer shamanic journeys,
Mm.
which is a form of energy healing. And shamanic journeys are a way of learning new skills on the internal landscape, so that when you go to do that skill and you need to accomplish something in the external world, it's so much easier because you've already practiced it at
Mm.
the very deepest levels of your psychology. So I love shamanic journeys for teaching people new skills, even business skills, but also emotional and mental skills, so that their life just gets a lot easier. So
Mm.
you can find all of this on my website, octaviabrooks.com. And I also have an Insight Timer channel where you can experience a lot of audios, a lot of free audios that will help you with anything from self-love to sending out heart beams to all of your community and meeting your clients in advance in the spiritual realm, so that you can rein them in with a beam of love to them. So that's an entrepreneurial marketing skill.
It's absolutely wonderful. I'm so excited by that. That's a fairly recent thing, the Insight Timer stuff, and everybody's just a buzz over that. So,
Yes, yes, I've been enjoying those so much.
yeah. Well, I'm so glad you came. I'm so glad you took the time out to talk to my folks here. We are all a mix of left brain people and right brain people, and you've just bridged those two hemispheres so well with the work that you're doing. And I just hope that folks do seek you out, because there's just a real treasure. There's a real joy in experiencing what you're bringing to the world right now with your work. I
Thank you.
really appreciate all of you guys coming out, and especially you, Octavia, for taking time to be on the hot seat with us here and talk to us for a while.
It's been wonderful meeting your community. Thank you so much for having me on, Margaret.
Thank, thank you. Thanks for coming, and everybody have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.